Hey, what's going on, guys? In this lesson, I'm going to walk you through how to change out your snare drum head and how to tune that batter head. We're not going to actually be looking at changing out the reso head on the snare drum. We're just going to be looking at the top head, but I will go through a little information on both heads because they are very important when you're tuning your snare drum sound and trying to dial it in. So here we go. First of all, let me just take off this old head. And quick little tip is, if you can do it with 2 keys, if you have 2 keys, it's going to go a lot faster. So I'm just going to get started loosening up the head and swapping it out. Alright, so we got our old beat up head, taking that off. Now I play a Ludwig Black Beauty, so you can see this metal shell here. And one of the things that I want to just mention is the resonant head of the snare drum is where your tone is going to be coming from, is where a lot of the action, so the snare sound, the actual snare sound is coming from, and also a lot of that pitch is going to be coming from your resonant head, most of the pitch. And the top head does change the sound. Of course it has to do with the pitch, but it has a lot to do with the feel as well. So one tip is that I would always keep your snare side head, your resonant head, really high. The higher pitch that your bottom head is, the better snare response you're gonna get. So I always like to keep mine really nice and tight, and just give it a listen if you want. I'm gonna turn the snare wires off, and you can see here the type of snare wires I have on here are very thick. So the more wires you have, the more snare wires you have, the more snare sound you're gonna get. So I would, even if you have, you already have one on your snare already, but I would look and see which one you have, and I would upgrade to something that's a lot more wires. You're gonna get a lot more snare sound out of it. This one's by Pure Sound. So one little trick, just slip your stick underneath here like that, so that way you're not hearing your snare when you're actually gonna go listen to your head here. So one of the ways you can just start to hear the tone of it is just using your finger. And you want all of the tension rods, the lugs, to sound even. Now that sounds very even. It's like perfectly in pitch here. Another way that you can see exactly how tight it is, what the tension is you can use this cool tool called the drum dial. The drum dial is something that I've always used for a long time, actually. And no, I'm not pitching them because I have an endorsement with them. I'm literally just telling you a product that I like to use. So what it does is it measures the tension of the head because it has a weight on it. It's pretty heavy. It's measuring how tight that lug is, how much that needle is. It's measuring the tightness of the head. So I'm gonna put it on one of my lugs here, and it's measuring at about 86. Okay, and I have a very even reading that I'm getting here. So 86 pretty much all the way around exactly is what I'm getting. Now, I like to have it over 85, what I found, okay? So you can do this by ear, of course, and I recommend that, but you can also do this by just using some tools. Once you find the pitch that you like, you can record the reading of how tight it is, and if you want to do it a little quicker next time, then you just quickly go to 86 or whatever you want, because you already know that's the pitch you like. So just kind of a quick way, I think, and then you can test your ear by saying, okay, is my ear hearing this correctly? Is everything sound even? And then you whip this out, and then you can actually test it. So I think it's a cool tool. It's useful for me. I've always used it. Some guys only do it by ear, and that's fine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna give this bottom head just about a quarter turn. And notice I'm doing this in a opposite pattern here. Since it's already very tight, I'm not worrying about being real specific on which lug, skipping 2, then going across, skipping 2, going across, because it's already pretty in tune here. So when it's already this tight, that little turn doesn't really make much of a difference. It's already very tight, okay? It's already very responsive. First, focus on your bottom head. Getting that even, getting that tone up really high, cranking that bottom head, getting a nice fat snare wire, and you're gonna start off with a really good sound right off the bat. You want your bottom head to be tighter than your top head. I believe that will get you the best sound, the most snare response, okay? So let's flip this back over. So I play Evans heads, all right, and this one is called the HD Dry. I love the sound of this head because it has a drier sound. It doesn't have a lot of resonance. It just gives me the right amount of crack and the right amount of sustain. It also lasts very long, has a very long life. All right, so I always like to put my head on where my label's at the top here because I have a little bit of I don't know, I just like things nice and neat. Now, I always check to make sure that there's not like grime and dirt built up on the bottom edge of the rim here. And for sure there is, because what happens is you're playing, little pieces of wood come off your stick, they get stuck underneath this little ridge right here. So give it a nice little cleaning before you put it on the new head so everything lays nice and even. I'm gonna go get that really quick. All right, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna finger tighten all of the tension rods, okay, around the drum, and this doesn't have to be in a particular order, so I just do both hands at the same time. We're gonna make them finger tight, and then we're gonna seat the head, which I'll show you what that means. All right, so everything's nice and tight. And then what I wanna do is I wanna kind of loosen the edge of this head. So what happens is, you have a fresh new head, if you just tighten it down like this, not everything's nice and even where the new head is meeting this rim, and it's gonna get out of tune really easily, and it's gonna keep detuning, you're gonna have to keep up-tuning it. So what you wanna do is just put a lot of pressure right in the center here, just press down. Now we can get into the tuning part. So since I have 2 keys, they're tightening at the same time, it's nice and even on the opposite lugs, and then I'm just gonna go around in a circle here so everything's being tightened evenly. So quite simple, right? So a little half turn, go to the next one. 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 This one got a little loose. Half turn, okay? Now I'm doing quarter turns because I don't wanna crank it up too fast. I think a little by little is the best approach. So I got one way around. Now it's extremely low, so it's gonna take doing that a few times over until we get it up to a pretty good, low to medium range, and then I'm gonna try to tune it by ear a little bit, and then we'll check it on the drum dial. So here we go. So let's listen to the tone. That one sounds a little higher. So this one's a little lower. I'm just gonna cinch these up a little. One's a little higher. Let's see where we're at with the drum dial. So the drum dial is measuring so precisely that sometimes my ear doesn't pick it up. Now, so it's telling me that these two are a little bit higher than the rest, so I'm just lowering those back down a little bit. So these top ones here are a little higher, and these lower ones are a little looser. I'm just doing a little crank here. So now I want to just keep going up, bringing the tone up, because this drum is still way too low. So I'm just gonna go around, keep tuning this baby up. So that's kind of like a medium tune. Let's see where we're at with this. Bring up the snare. So it's actually a nice tone right there. If you want to crank it up a little bit more, you can. This is where it comes into preference. Do you want it higher? I like my snare a little bit higher, so I'm going to go around one more time and bring it up a notch. And then I'm going to check and make sure all the lugs are nice and even. Alright, so I want to listen to it again, and then we'll test our hearing with the drum dial, see where we're at, see if we need to make any small adjustments. Sounds amazing. Already that's the tone that I really love right there. So big, wonderful sound. I mean, instantly you can tell the difference when you put on a fresh new head. It just sounds amazing. So I really like this tone. It can even go up a little higher, but I think it's a great starting point for now. Now let's test it by ear, see if we need to make any changes, then we'll get the drum dial out. So already, this is sounding a little bit lower. So this one and this one sound the lowest to me. So I'm just gonna give this guy a little boost and this guy a little boost. Let's see where we're at with the drum dial. So actually, I think this one is definitely a little tighter, and what's happening, just by a little bit though, but what's happening is if one lug's tighter than the other one, it even pulls up the sound of these others next to it sometimes. So I wanna, it's actually, this guy's just a little too tight. It's coming up as like 1 degree, 2 degrees higher on the drum dial. Everything else is nice and even. So everything's looking really good. Sounds fantastic. Love the sound that I'm getting. So that's how you tune the top head of your snare drum and check the bottom head, guys. The last thing I want to do is just play a little groove to it, see how it sounded on the kit as a whole.